I've been dancing around this topic, trying to figure out how to lead people to a sense of humanity at the same time, say the things that need to be said at the same time, not betray my heart and soul at the same time, not get canceled at the same time. It's been a pretzel, twisting and turning into these pretzels, walking a tightrope on these airwaves that I don't own and control at the same time. I feel like humanity should be for all, like we should all care about that, but that doesn't seem to matter to people. They just want vengeance. And at the end of the day, you know, an eye for an eye leaves everyone blind, but I can't say that, because if you kill my mama, I'm not sleeping until I get you, you know, like I feel, but you know, I'm still a work in progress. I'm not obviously spiritually evolved enough to let that go, but here we are. I thank you.
Thank you.
This was a conversation that I've been wanting to have, but I didn't know how to have it. And so you have
it's really tough. Like, you asked me about how people feel about me. For the most part, people don't put it in my face. Like, I did a 17-minute video on my Facebook. I didn't intend to be 17 minutes. But basically and it is fairly coherent. But I basically just said, you know, I was upfront with people who might think, you know, I'm like, I'm not a conservative. I'm a progressive. I'm a liberal. I believe in those causes and values. But at the same point in time, you know, I have to tell you that I share my Jewish family with people of all different kinds of perspectives, colors, backgrounds, and beliefs. Part of what makes us a strong community and strong tradition, you know, people often say, well, y'all are always unified. That's not always true. You know, there's a very popular American Jewish proverb that goes, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. You know, and you know, yes, when it comes to serious matters, we come to a fair amount of consensus on the best course for everybody. We move on it. You know, this past week, we've seen a number of Jewish organizations and Jewish people say, not on my watch, not in my name, no genocide, no war. And that to me is really beautiful and important. A number of colleagues and friends of mine have been a part of that. But at the same time, I don't want people to run around thinking that the good Jews are just the Jews who aren't, you know, the term Zionist comes into play. Okay. There's a huge spectrum out there, you know, of people on this issue of whether or not, you know, how do we even move forward, or if we move forward at all as a Jewish people in the land. Okay, there's a huge spectrum. 2 Jews, 3 opinions. I might even gather on the issue, 2 Jews, 10 opinions. You know,
no, for real. But there's only space in our media right now for one opinion. So if we come back, let's talk about that. You know, because that there's only room for one opinion. You can only have one opinion and be okay.
To me, there should be no confusion about this for Americans. And I'll say this not just as a United States Senator, not just as a patriot who would die for my own country, but I'm going to say this as a Black man. When you're Black in America, you understand the vulnerability within your own country you love. I saw it as an adult on January 6th. The people that stormed the Capitol, talked to Capitol Police, were African Americans. They had signs of hatred, Confederate flags, the vicious, racist things they were saying to Capitol Police officers. But side by side, those symbols of hate towards Black Americans were shirts like Camp Auschwitz shirts. Hate has an indiscriminate infection. This is why, as an American, as a Black American, I will always stand against hate and stand with the people who are targets of hate. Just like the Nazis, who didn't just destroy 6 million Jews, they destroyed gay people, gypsies. I will stand with people who are targets of hate. Hamas, like the Nazis and like ISIS, are people who target with hate. I stand with Jews. I stand with Muslims. I stand with gay folks. I stand with people right now who all have a common cause to stand against Hamas, because Hamas is an indiscriminately hateful people who do not want peace. They want to destroy others and stop us from having peace. This is not complicated, America. It is not complicated. We all must denounce hate and those people who use hate to destroy. That is Hamas. And so I am worried right now. I'm worried about rising anti-Semitism in the United States. I led with 3 other senators, bipartisan, to call for more resources because hate is indiscriminate in its efforts. The same hate that killed blacks in a church in South Carolina are the same people who are wielding the same hate that killed in a synagogue. And so we all need to take an understanding. Everyone has a responsibility to condemn the hatred of this ISIS Nazi like Hamas and do everything we can to try to get us back to peace, to affirming of human rights for all people in that region. And again, the protection of this country and this country's, unfortunately, too often targets of hate.
And the 6-year-old little boy who was stabbed, Muslim Palestinian, by his landlord, and his mother who was stabbed, he was stabbed 26 times to his death, the 6-year-old baby. That level of hate is it's on all sides, right? Because hate is amorphous. Hate doesn't really, and that's the trick of hate, right? It's not really targeting groups of people. It is very, very broad in the way in which it exacts itself. Michael Twitty is here to Karen Hunter Show. It's Friday. We were talking off mic during the break, and Michael Twitty is a Jewish man. He's a Black man. He's an amazing chef who cooks and talks and has these conversations all the time around food. But here we are in this conflict. Some would say we need to mind our business, and I'm saying we are all our brother's keepers. You said during the break, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. Explain that, and then I asked the question about you being a sellout. So that probably answers that too.
So it's like there's an old kind of quip in the American Jewish community. It says 2 Jews, 3 opinions. And what it really means is that because of the nature of the way our culture thinks, we believe in argumentation, asking questions, debate, trying to figure things out, resolution. To us, argument and conversation are not negative. They are an essential part of figuring life out. One could even say that when Abraham, our father, and Sarah, our mother, are having these conversations with God, and Moses, our teacher as well. It's either these are arguments. Cain, am I my brother's keeper? There's an argument. It's not a nice statement, because remember, by that point in time, Cain has already killed Havel. He's already killed Abel. And it's an argument between him and God. Cain, where's your brother? What's up? Am I my brother's keeper? Why you want to know? We even argue with God. The name of our predominant patriarch, Jacob, Yaakov, literally, he's the person who takes on the name Israel, which means the person who wrestles with God. Wrestling is a struggle. It's a battle. It's not just it's not footprints. The Lord carried me all the way. That's not the Jewish way of thinking of the world. It's a wrestling, a mental and spiritual wrestling with what is the right thing to do. And for a lot of Jews, there were, marches against the war in Gaza, against genocide, etc. And yes, there were marches for people who were just like supporting whatever Israel does. There are multiple Israels, though, and people need to understand this. There's very lefty Israel, there's very centrist Israel, there's very right-wing Israel, there's very apocalyptic messianic Israel. There's also the Israel where Arabs and Jews, Muslims and Christians, everybody else interacts, eats together, has sex together, parties together, whatever, and think that they're beyond it. I mean, all these things exist on a spectrum. I don't like when people be like, well, are you a good Jew? Are you an anti-Zionist Jew? Or are you a Zionist Jew? It's not that simple. Even that has a spectrum of how you fall on the list. I mean, if you're born and raised in Jerusalem, and you have family that showed up there after the Holocaust, family that showed up there in the 1800s, family that was there in ancient times, where do you fit on this list of the first or last to be evicted? Same question for the Palestinian. You might have in your same family, in your same bloodline, people who only showed up 100 years ago, people who were there in the Middle Ages, people who were there when the Bedouin were roaming the desert, when Jesus Christ was alive. Who is the most authentic whatever? But right now, I think the biggest question is, it's not just about the violence, the bombs, about the dignity, the everyday dignity of Palestinian people, and the fairness for Israeli Arabs, civilians. I mean, Karen, I gotta say this. It's so hard for me to talk about this because, yes, there's a lot of policing that is done inside the community and outside the community. I had this huge 17-minute thing I did on Facebook where I was like going through my feelings, and I was telling people, if you think I said the words openly, I am no coon, I ain't no conservative, I ain't no apologist for anybody. I'm just me. I'm somebody I'm a Black man who has Jewish ancestors, Muslim ancestors, traditional African ancestors, Christian ancestors, and I'm telling you that my egun, my ancestors, are telling me we got to figure this out fast. I'm not going with what everybody says. I'm going with what I see. With what I see. I have a reason. Yes, I have a reason not to be nice about this.
No, and I was saying you were saying there's more than 3 opinions. There's 20 opinions, and I was like, no, there's only one opinion that you can have and not be canceled.
Right, and it's unfortunate because we're seeing that both sides are learning. Both sides, and I say sides as if it's one mind, have learned from each other how to do really good propaganda. And no offense, y'all, but here's the real deal. Here's the real tea. In Israel, they call it Hasbara. Hasbara, it means the pushback against anti-Israel sentiment. And at the same time, we have Hasbara on one side, and we also have what some people have called the electronic intifada. Intifada is another term for the uprising of Palestinians, okay? So electronic intifada means people get online. And somebody once said to me, Karen, out of the blue, on my Instagram, Cooking Gene, they said, "Are you a Zionist?" And I had never said anything about Israel-Palestine. Never, because I didn't want to talk about it because I didn't want to inflame anybody. I'm not anti-Palestinian. I'm not anti-Israel. I'm just pro-human. And I realized that for other people, these are issues they face every day and therefore have a different import. But I was like, I've pushed back on this person. I said, "You're just saying this because I'm Jewish. That's not nice. Just like the Arab person should not have to answer for Hamas, I should have to answer for these other issues because of who I am. So we ain't gonna do that." But I do get that. I have there's sort of a passive aggressive breeze in the air about being a sellout, when the reality is all I've ever tried to do is uplift. If you look at Kosher Soul, I have a whole section in there in my open annotated bibliography where I talk about the importance of reading Arab Palestinian cookbook authors and food writers. Inevitably, you're going to read what they have to say about their own family's experiences. And I make no apology for that. But I also understand if you want to understand Israeli food and Jewish food and the relationship between Jewish and Arab food in the region, you have to understand how all the cultures practice these traditions and recipes and ingredients. And so I make no apologies about that. But at the same point in time, like my mishpacha, my family, is still there, facing bombs, the North and the South. And those bombs don't have, just, a label on them called white Jew. They hit Ethiopian Jews. They hit Yemenite Jews. They hit Israeli Arabs too. They hit guest workers from Thailand and doctors and students who have nothing to do with this conflict whatsoever. Those bombs. So when I hear our young people say things like in the electronic intifada, say, you're all colonialists, there are no innocents. But Karen, excuse me, when I hear Israeli officials call Arab and Palestinian people animals, when I hear them say things like cut their water off, their electricity off, when I heard that video of that old man, I don't know if you saw this or not, talk about kill your Arab neighbor. I said, okay, you on the Hell Express. I would not bother being 90-something and any day could meet my maker and have that on my mouth. Because the Judaism that I practice and that I know warns you against a lashon hara, an evil tongue. It's the fastest way to the gates of hell. To speak such bad, to violate people through the violence of your tongue. So, I think there's room, Karen. We have to make room morally and ethically. And understand that conversation is not surrender. Okay, it's not surrender. Maybe somebody will get some truth in it that will help make them make a change that will cause them to live life in such a way that some of these root systemic issues will begin to abate. But right now, these people need water, they need food, they need to stop carrying their children around in bags. We're at a point where I fear for world Jewry, but especially the United States and Israel, we're losing a moral compass.
Oh,
it can't just
you
be
have said
protesting.
everything. You have conversation is not surrender. I'm gonna leave it there. I want you to come back. We've had an extensive conversation about your pathway to Judaism, which we're going to resurrect in a podcast, as well as maybe play it during the holiday, Smiths, because I think this is poignant. Michael Twitty, I've been trying to get you back on, and this is why. I love you.
Love you too,
love
my
you
sister.
Deeply.
I run my fingers through her hair as she smiles and says that she loves me. Isn't it lovely when the one you're lusting is the one